What happens at Grandma's stays at Grandma's is a model for you and your grandkids. If it's fun, it's fair game. But lately, hip pain has you grimacing more than laughing. And that's a moment you realize life's too short to put off treatment any longer.
The Joint and Spine Center is Cincinnati's leading destination for orthopedic care, with hundreds of joint replacements each year. So when a moment has the power to change the rest of your life, go to the one place with the power to change it for the better. The Christ Hospital Health Network. This changes everything.
The Pound This Podcast is brought to you by the Christ Hospital Health Network. This is the Pound This Podcast, episode 657, Getting Baked with Barb Webb.
I want to lose weight, but I don't know how to get started. What should I meal prep every week?
How do I get those sweet booty gains?
Inspiration for your healthy lifestyle. The Pound This Podcast with Amanda Valentine.
Thank you so much for listening to the Pound This Podcast. I'm Amanda Valentine. Very excited to chat with my guest today. Do you refer to yourself as like rural mom? Is that a name you give yourself? Or do you just go by Barb Webb?
Yeah, I go by Barb Webb, which encompasses all of my activities. But a lot of people know me by rural mom. It's been established since 2008. I've been online as a blogger. And so in certain circles, that's a common name.
Awesome. Well, I mean, you have a lot of stuff going on, and I kind of want to just kind of know everything about you. But we're talking about sustainable farming, and then I've going through your website that you kind of like cover like all over the place. You kind of touch base on everything, kind of like health and wellness and food and supplements, and we're going to get into CBD and stuff like that. But I guess tell me about you and your background and kind of where you started to get where you are now.
Sure. Well, in a nutshell, I've always wanted to be a writer. So that was just sort of the avenue that I followed, but I had to make money. So I went into technical writing when I was younger. I came up in the digital age because we didn't have technology and I understood it. So I actually wound up writing curriculum for Microsoft, Logical Operations, Best Buy, a number of big companies, McGraw-Hill. And that led into the revolution of the internet, which, I discovered and understood really well coming from a technical background that moms kind of needed information. And this was a great way to disseminate that. So that's kind of where I began online. From there, I've always, it's funny. You find out go into sustainable living. I don't know what the connection is. Honestly, I think maybe because we're more logical. So we sort of look at the world that way. And from a logical standpoint, sustainable living makes sense. It's something we should all be doing. Foods, something that makes a lot of logical sense. So I became very, very interested in it and started writing in that arena. Bought a 117-acre farm and didn't know what I was doing, but I made it work. Again, I'm a researcher by nature and by trade, so that helped a lot. And of course, talking to people. And I've never worked in journalism per se. I have a journalism degree, but kind of love talking to people and getting especially old timers information because there's just a wealth of knowledge out there. That we don't have access to. And talking to your farmers is one of the most incredible things that you can do. The people who are actually producing your food.
Yeah, there's just such
that kind of evolved.
Yeah, I mean, there's just such a disconnect from going to the grocery store and getting your food and not knowing where it came from or the people that, that grew it in their life story or where, how far did it travel from the farm to your table. And yeah, I mean, that's a monster of a topic.
Right.
So for you, does having a sustainable farm mean that on you said 117 acres, right?
So now I'm down to 15. I've actually, that was up in Minnesota. We moved to Kentucky and my husband works for the airline industry. So we've moved around a little bit, but we're down to, we are more what the industry refers to as hobby farmers, partially outside of the farmers market.
Sorry, you broke up. Can you say that again? What are you referred to as?
So most people would refer to us as hobby farmers because we're basically self-sustaining. We may sell some to the farmers market, but we're not selling commercially.
So then all the food that you and your family eats, that you are responsible for it. So you don't go to the grocery store. Is that what that means?
A good bulk, yes. I do partake in the grocery store. We have a wonderful service in Kentucky called Green Bean Delivery, which buys from local farmers. So it's sort of like a co-op. So I order from there regularly, and that would be my groceries that we don't grow. Um, we don't have a lot of animals on our farm, so that's something I would outside resource to other farmers. But yeah, I grocery shop very little, just for some staples throughout the year,
That's
or
cool.
something the boys really want.
So what all do you grow?
Mostly grow vegetables and herbs. Everything. And I'm always experimenting, so I'm always trying new heirloom varieties. Got some orange peppers this year, and some pear tomatoes, and just different things. But we can a lot. So I'll predominantly grow what I'm going to can. I mean, obviously we love salsa and spaghetti sauce, and so we have like oodles and noodles of tomatoes and peppers growing regularly throughout the year. I hydroponic lettuce throughout the year indoors, and basil too, which is just a favorite of ours. And all of the herbs, I have a greenhouse where I grow herbs year round, because I'm just a huge component of natural medicine rather than chemical.
Yeah. Oh, that's amazing. I mean, just take, okay, let's jump on that topic for a second. Like, what would you think are kind of like somebody that can grow and that doesn't have like a plot of land, that just maybe just has like a backyard or space in their house or a porch or something, of like, what would you think are like the staple things that you'd want to grow, like especially thinking of like for some sort of like medicinal uses?
Sure. That's a lot of what's covered in the new book, actually, Getting Baked,
Okay.
is for the average gardener. And how do I grow a medicinal garden that's actually going to be useful to me? And I can pronounce all the names of the things that are in it, and I can recognize them and actually use them and digest them in my regular life. Some of the best things to grow out, like number one, garlic. It's so beneficial in so many ways for overall health and wellness, for reduction of inflammation, which a lot of people are concerned with, COVID right now, and reducing inflammation in the body, kind of prepping it to be very well. People are interested in weight loss, so you have to deal with those base element things first, before you can prime your body for anything, including weight loss or building your immune system. So garlic is just like an all around thing, and anybody can grow it in a pot. You can grow it on your windowsill. It's just very simple. Other herbs like basil is phenomenal as well. Very good. Thyme is great for colds. All of the herbs, all of your basic herbs that you already know the names of, you just don't realize you can use them in a medicinal way. Sage, for example, I use on my hair, and going a little gray. I'm 52 years old. So I rinse it with sage all the time, and that's an old kind of farmer's trick. These hair teas, you just brew a concentrated form, put it on your hair, and it actually does work. It keeps the health of your scalp really well. Because I have dark hair, I use sage. I don't know if it really keeps the grays away, but I'm 52 and I don't have a full head of gray hair yet. So, there's some anecdotal evidence there, right? Things like rosemary will make your hair shine. So you could use it in so many ways, just these common herbs. And that's what I recommend, is start with the ones that the ones that you can pronounce, but begin to look and use them in different ways than just sprinkling it on your pizza or throwing it in your spaghetti sauce.
Yeah, it's so funny that you bring up garlic, because I'm a total slut for garlic, and I have never once thought about growing it myself. I don't know. This is for me too. So like a good question is, I like tend to murder everything that's a plant. I'm just not, I like murder cactuses. Like I just can't keep plants alive, and I would love to grow a garden, but I'm afraid I'm just going to murder it. And I can't believe it's never crossed my mind to grow garlic. And now you saying that's so easy. So if it's like for somebody like me getting your book, would this be helpful for me of like, oh my God, I never even really thought of these things. This is how I grow it. This is what I can use it for.
Yeah, absolutely. That's exactly what I've covered. And so the correlation with hemp and CBD is amazing. When you look at herbs, they have the same cannabinoids that CBD or hemp does. So they're all part of the family. And so the connection of what you can do with just regular herbs is amazing. And they're so easy to grow. Garlic is a set it and forget it crop, honestly.
That's for
you
me.
Put it in, yes. You put it in, and as long as it has the right soil draining conditions and water and sunshine, it grows itself. You don't have to tend to it at all. You're just going to pick it once it's done. And most people don't realize how easy most herbs were what we used to refer to, or what we still refer to as weeds, because dandelion is very beneficial in many ways, but we consider it an intrusive weed, and it's not. And mint will literally take over your garden. It's so easy to grow, so you best contain it in a pot. And a lot of them are really set it and forget it things that you walk out one day and go, oh great, I can cut some mint and throw it in my grapefruit juice and have a good time.
Nice. Yeah, I've never thought about, like, I know that I should use more fresh herbs and stuff like that, but then again, I'm just the fear of murdering them, because I just kind of have no one to guide me through it. But since you brought up CBD, which again, I just love the name of your book is Getting Baked, and then your other one is Getting Laid. When you talk about chickens, which I would love to have backyard chickens, but I don't want my neighbors to hate me because I live in the city of Cincinnati. But to the CBD topic, I think that I think there's just so much interest, and obviously there's so much benefit to it, but there's just misconception or misinformation, or it's kind of, it just doesn't feel like you can get a clear picture of everything. And then if you feel like you Google it, you just get ads for stuff. So how do you go through of explaining CBD and in the ways that we should be using it?
So that's really interesting. And you're right. And that was actually what prompted me to write this follow-up book to Getting Laid, which is about gardening and chickens and canning, preserving your food. So there's a lot of recipes in there. And this was a follow-up. I wanted to do something on herbs, but like I said, hemp is an herb. It is a plant that falls within that category, has a lot of the same properties as a lot of our common herbs. And it's such a misconstrued plant because of the demonization that happened with marijuana, unfortunately, because there's so much more to it. And hemp as a category, which hemp is really cannabis. It's all cannabis. We need to get that straight. That's the first confusion that people have. Well, what is hemp? What is CBD? What is cannabis? They're all the same. Mm-hmm. Cannabis is the plant. We call it hemp because it's polite. and that gives people more comfort level. So in the book, I do distinguish that I'm going to call hemp anything that has under a 0.3% THC level to it. So it has the non-narcotic high property. Okay, so just to distinguish as I talk forward, I will refer to that as hemp rather than marijuana, which is also cannabis strain. It has a high THC level, which gives you the euphoria. Mm-hmm. And that's cool. A lot of people like one or the other. But for CBD itself, I think the big buzz about it, misunderstood, but the big property that's really, really helpful is it is the huge plant for most people who use it. And CBD tends to have a high pain reduction in the body as well. In fact, a recent study out of Canada just said that CBD itself, they've studied this particular element of the cannabis plant. So just to clarify to anybody listening who doesn't know, CBD was one element of 140 different cannabinoids in cannabis. CBD is just one of them. We've identified it because of its properties, and it is more present in cannabis than most other cannabinoids. So it was easily identified and started researching. Out of Canada, they just are determined that CBD is 30 times more effective in reducing pain and inflammation than an aspirin.
Wow.
So that's huge. Yeah, that's a very powerful substance and works very well for many people. You can't make medical claims about it. A lot of it is anecdotal, but there's enough studies that show it has a direct effect on rheumatoid arthritis patients, It's been used to treat epilepsy. Obviously, there is a patented drug that treats seizures, or it's anti-seizure medication. So, and you're seeing more and more things come out in that arena. So that's the huge draw, I think, for most people. The CBD is it's not a miracle drug, obviously, but it can really enhance some of the things that you're combating within your body to prime your body for sort of a homeostasis, right? We all want to reach that level where we just live our daily lives and we kind of feel good.
Yeah. So it's like, how do you differentiate what's good for you and what's not? Because I feel like even now I can go to a store here in Cincinnati and there's a CBD seltzer, and then there's the CBD like salve that you're supposed to put on like your feet and your hands at night or whatever. And it's just kind of like you see the letters CBD thrown on stuff. So it's like, well, how am I supposed to know like what's actually working for me and what's not? It just kind of feels like there's, again, like no clear picture of anything. It's just kind of like slapping the label like with more protein. I'm like, oh, what the hell does that mean? You know what I mean? It's like, it's just
right?
like, it kind of means nothing whenever you don't understand it.
Yeah, no, that's why I read the book. But no, I'm just kidding. It's all in there. But, I can give it to you in a nutshell, though. So it's a great question. And there's CBD tampons now. There's CBD sportswear. Seriously.
Is that really helpful? Is that a thing, or is that marketing?
It's marketing.
Okay.
So CBD is the new gluten-free.
Okay.
Because if you remember, a few years back, everything was gluten-free and nobody really knew what that meant or if they needed it. But if you slapped it on a product, it sold. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Even things that were normally gluten-free, they're like, putting gluten-free on the product. We're like, that was always gluten-free. What's the point? Marketing tactic. And there is no scientific proof that CBD infused sportswear is going to do anything for your muscle recovery. Now, so there are different types of CBD, and I'm going to touch on the two that you mentioned, and that is the creams,
mm-hmm.
which, so you have external and internal. Basically, it comes down to two categories. So external, again, CBD is a pain reduction. So like I have carpal tunnel. And sometimes I'll get, quite a bit of pain in my wrist after writing for long, intense sessions. I do use peppermint oil, which is wildly effective as well, and a CBD balm sometimes, which can help. Now, that's only absorbed through the skin into the direct area that has pain. It does not go into your bloodstream. And there is, there are a lot of studies. It's helped, again, rheumatoid arthritis is a big one. They've done a lot of research and studies, and that's been very helpful to those patients who have that condition. So can it help with pain? Yes, but it is often mixed with other components. So I always tell people, look, instead of buying the $15 CBD pain reliever, why not try the all natural, kind of peppermint eucalyptus sort of pain reliever first? And if that works, that's $5. You don't necessarily have to have the CBD component. Now, if you have extreme pain or it's rheumatoid arthritis or something that is proven to work on, then you're the one who really wants to gravitate towards that higher priced product that's going to likely give you more relief. Now, internal CBD, whether you vape it or take it orally by a gummy bear or anything, there's several types of CBD, but we're just going to talk about CBD itself. Does reduce, and it is proven to have reduced inflammation and pain relief. So it works with a number of receptors in your body to sort of migraine users. They've done a lot of studies where CBD has effectively reduced migraine pain. Because again, we just found out, it's like 30 times more powerful than an aspirin.
Yeah.
In terms of doing that. So that's big. That's big news for people who have that condition as well. And it's also tested and studied on PTSD patients. I'm not saying that right. Post-traumatic stress syndrome.
Yeah, you said it right.
Okay. I was kind of messing up the acronym there. A lot of studies on that, and as well as depression and anxiety. And CBD has been shown to help people with anxiety and extreme depression as post-traumatic stress disorder. in that case, because it's sort of, especially if you're using full spectrum CBD, which also has the THC and all the other cannabinoids and flavonoids and components of the plant itself. So full spectrum contains everything. They extract CBD, but they're also extracting the plant material as well. And that sort of works in what they call an entourage effect, has been very effective for people as well in reducing anxiety type symptoms. There's two other types of internal CBD, and that is broad spectrum and isolate. And these three terms are really important if you're shopping for CBD and you have anxiety, or you have mood disorders, or you have inflammation in the body, and you want to use these. Full spectrum is the best. It is the most potent. It has all of the plant material in it, which works in synergy. It's like you by yourself, you're cool, but you with your friends, you're even cooler group, right? Yeah. So when you extract all these things out of the plant, it's like that. So I'm not using CBD as a solo. I'm using CBD with, I get by with a little help from my friends, and it enhances and it supports the effect of CBD in the body. Now, broad spectrum also has that, but it takes away the THC component. For those who may be THC sensitive, that happens. For those who just maybe want to pass a drug test, by taking out that THC component within it, you're still getting a lot of the plant material, but you have a safer method of taking that, so that minuscule amount of THC is not within your body at all. Or those who just, they don't want any chance of having a euphoric effect or on the body. And then there's isolate. Isolate is pure, pretty much 99% CBD. It's odorless, it's tasteless. It is isolated into a powder. It easily mixes with things, but it is less potent. So most users often have to take 2 to 3 times the amount in order to get the same effect of a full spectrum. So that's important when you look at things like your pocketbook.
Yeah, it's just crazy to me because, I'm such a believer in just like everything that you're doing of going a more natural way, of trying to, using things that like grow from the earth. Like you're talking about just even using like peppermint oils and essential oils and using different herbs and using things like CBD to heal your own body, and hearing all of the things that you say that CBD can do for us. And I know each state has its own set of laws and regulations against it, but it's like, why is this so criminalized when it does so much good? It's just crazy to me of like, it's not getting you high. You know what I mean? If it's going to help people with depression and anxiety and migraines and everything else, like, why are we treating this as if it's like, oh, shame on you?
I think even to get high from a CBD, like a full spectrum, you would have to drink more than your body could handle.
Yeah, that doesn't sound
crazy.
Fun.
So, it's the stigma. It's cultural. The stigma around marijuana, especially within the United States, well, even Canada. Canada, you still have to have a prescription to get CBD. So it's and it all stems down to a stigma from many years ago against marijuana, which questionably is from the food and drug culture. The drug companies, didn't want this plant, which has some of these really cool properties, going mainstream. They wanted to use the synthetics instead. Yeah. And then worked really, really hard to put this cultural stigma around this amazing plant, which has such benefits. And cancer treatment has proven to be extremely effective. So not just as a recreational drug, which is cool, if that's your preference. It was mine when I was younger, and now I just like a clearer mind. So I like the benefits without the high, which full spectrum CBD gives me. It's powerful. In many ways, it actually enhances my sleep too, which is another component. Like CBD does so many things. It's phenomenal that we have ignored it, and I'm glad to see it coming back. I was an early adopter, like this. I was on that immediately. I'm like, whoa, cool. We're going back to hemp. I don't know if I'm an old hippie. I'm not. I was born in '69, so kind of missed the hippie phase, but I sort of have that a mentality of why are we not using all of these natural elements that surround us? Why do we keep synthesizing everything? When the nature is better, we all know this inherently.
Yeah, and it's just like it's crazy too that we just don't even. Again, there's just no education or knowledge on it. And even with you talking about herbs and everything, I was at Mackinac Island in Michigan this past summer, and I went to. It was just like this. It was a museum, a Native American museum, and outside they had all of their gardens and just showing all of the herbs and everything. And each one had a sign saying all of the medicinal uses and all of the other uses for things. And one was like tobacco, and it had like 7 other uses for it. And it's like, we don't know these things anymore. And even if you do, then you like all of a sudden you fit into like a woo woo category. You know what I mean? It's like, right. but people live like this for how long? And now we're just like, oh, well, you crunchy granola. All right. You know what I mean? It's like, I don't know. To me, that's just, it's so strange when same thing with like essential oils and all of that of like, but those things work. It's not just because, you're like woo wooey crunchy granola or slap a label onto it. It's like, no, we just don't talk about it. We're not educated on it enough at all, which I think is amazing that, you're writing books to give people education. So it's like, we know what the story is with this, and it's not criminal. It's like, it's a good thing that the planet is giving us when, we want to be concerned with our health and wellness and whatever level of that is of, again, I'm so much of a believer of just the foods that you put into your body. And this is the same sort of thing of like, this is things that you're putting into your body and how your body reacts to that. And that's just nothing that most people just don't talk about on the regular.
Yeah, it does have that granola cruncher stigma, right?
Yeah, it does.
or I get called a pothead a lot, like whatever. It's funny. It's a cultural misinterpretation, but I mean, if we really just get down to it, it's a cycle of life. The entire planet is symbiotic. Everything that exists on the planet exists for a reason, by nature, not the things that we've created, but in nature, it exists for a reason. It is a cycle. There is a method to the madness. It supports us and sustains us. We use water. We emphasize water every day, right, to sustain us. Mm-hmm. Why are we not emphasizing plants, which are put there for the exact same reason? I mean, it is kind of interesting, but I'm an advocate, and I think the more of us that start talking about it and educating people and getting people to understand that there's a time for synthetics. And I'm not like saying don't take medicine. I have no thyroid. I have no functioning thyroid. I don't exist without medicine. It serves its purpose. But we can enhance and supplement our bodies in different ways too. It doesn't always have to be in synthetic. It doesn't always have to be a natural cure. We need to try to use these things in harmony and balance. And why would you not want to take CBD or anything that might, or garlic, for example, that might reduce inflammation in your body rather than taking a synthetic pill to do that? So why would you not want a natural component that's not going to harm your body, has no cancerous effect or anything else when you have that alternative?
Totally. It's funny that you bring up the thyroid, because just a couple of days ago, I was diagnosed with Hashimoto's disease, and so many people sent me book recommendations of, like healing your body, and the recommendation for that is going gluten-free and how to kind of regulate those things through, a whole plant-based diet, which I'm fairly on anyway. I mean, I eat pretty healthy, but so it's just amazing timing that we're talking right now, because I'm like, I really want to deep dive into that, because it affects so many women of like hypothyroidism and then how much a natural solution, where you talked about like you need hormone prescriptions. There's like some things you can't get around where you need, some prescription medicines, but there's so much that you can do to heal your own body on top of that. And for me, I'm like, I totally want to take that avenue. I'm totally a believer that, food is medicine, and how can I best utilize that so I can feel good every day instead of, the things that come with that, which I'm sure you're well aware of, like fatigue and depression and everything. And the weight loss is harder and everything else. So it's like, well, I can put the reins in my own hands here to a degree. So I want to, and by eating plants, like especially like growing herbs, like which is like on the super cheap, then I mean, why wouldn't you want to take that option, in my opinion?
Oh, no, absolutely. Yeah. So Ayurvedic medicine too, I found a lot of like Indian herbs and stuff that help, like holy basil. And there's just so much out there that's going to support you. I also have Hashimoto's. I developed that. So my body attacked my thyroid and boom, it's gone. I was pregnant. Haven't quite still not lost the pregnancy weight. It's a side effect. But I struggled for many, many years. And I think that really pushed me as well to get interested in how to heal my body naturally and really reduce inflammation. That's a huge one with anybody, excuse me, with thyroid problems. You have inflammation and digestive issues. And so through a combination of herbs, reducing that inflammation, reducing sugar, obviously, which is a killer, gluten, in the body, the things that you're just not going to process anymore. And I take CBD, which actually has, in combination with magnesium and triphalia, which is an Ayurvedic herb, I have a beautiful digestive system now. So that's, there's just so many things that you can do that you don't realize your thyroid does, and now you no longer have, that you can supplement with nature. Nature has, nature heals. Nature heals itself. Nature heals us. There's so many things. Again, not a cure-all, but it definitely can enhance and support your particular needs.
Yeah, and I know too. I also have arthritis in my knees, and the times that I've really focused on just more anti-inflammatory foods, I've noticed a big difference. Like just even taking out more of the foods that cause inflammation and adding in more some fatty fish and turmeric and everything else. Like the difference where it's not like, oh my God, I'm cured. But for me, like the difference when I really focused on that was the difference between walking down the stairs in the morning and my knees being just slowly kind of hobbling down to like get to the bottom of the stairs. And I didn't even think about my knees. I'm like, okay. And that was just through food. That wasn't popping any other sort of pills other than just kind of shifting my diet around a little bit. And it's just making the commitment once you see the changes is, I think, the harder part, where it's like, oh, I can feel this, but then you're like, but pizza and beer. And so just, I think you have to feel the feeling first, and then it's just like, okay, like anything else, if I'm going to really reap the benefits of this, you have to kind of commit to it, because it's it's so easily you feel the difference between whenever you eat well or you eat crappy. It's just focusing on it and paying attention, and then making the choice that you want to make after that. Which the self-awareness part's not always so fun.
No, and it's easy things too. Like, so if your goal is reducing inflammation with CBD, don't take sugar gummies. You want a tincture that has no sugar, or an oral pill or something. So I mean, there's just so many things to consider. Like you said, turmeric is another favorite, and people often combine it with CBD to do kind of like an energy thing. Is fascinating. You can grow that too, by the way, and it's really simple. So you'll find that information in the book if you're interested. And ginger too, also just very simple plants to grow in the right conditions.
Oh man. So for everybody listening to this and they're like, okay, I got to read this book now, because you're going to like teach us how to do all these things and all the information. What's the best way for somebody to get the book?
It's up for pre-sale right now on every major bookstore out there. If you're an Amazon fan, it's there. I think they're $2 off right now on Amazon, which is kind of cool. They always do that with a pre-release.
And then Getting Laid is
half price books, any bookstore. Yeah, that's out there too. Bookstore. I am through a traditional publisher, so you'll see it on bookshelves if you actually go to the bookstore anymore with the pandemic.
Oh right. Oh man, I can't remember the last time I was in a bookstore, unfortunately.
Yeah, so the best way, obviously, is to get it through an online bookstore. Also on ruralmom.com, RURALMOM.com. I put a lot of supplemental information out there. So I'm constantly talking about, like you said, herbs and gardening and supplemental stuff, as well as other mom stuff like how to entertain your kids, in predominantly country setting, because I'm actually now in a suburb, but we still live on a farm. So I do cater more towards the suburban, rural type families. But it's all pertinent. We're all moms or we're all people who need this information. So I do try to often put a lot of urban tips in if I'm writing, okay, this is what you would do in your farm, but here's what you would do if you're in an urban setting. And you want to grow this on your patio type stuff.
Cool. Well, I'll put all that information in the show notes of ruralmom.com, links to the book. And yeah, I think that's awesome. Again, I think the amazing timing of like, where I'm like, oh my God, I just really want to know more about this. And here you are with your book, and here we go.
Cool.
Ask and you shall receive. So I'm really excited to take a deep dive into that and figure that out. And I'm assuming that if anybody has any questions, including myself, that I could just reach out to you through ruralmom.com and be like, okay, but I have a question about not murdering my garlic.
Absolutely. I filter emails all the time. I have some readers that are, regular, but I hear from all kinds of people, and I'm happy to answer questions. Often I'll turn it into a blog post. So if it's something I feel like, wow, this is a great question, everybody's going to benefit from this, and I'll just turn it into a blog post and send you a link. So Barb Webb at ruralmom.com is my email, and anybody is welcome to use that to reach out. I love to chat, to share. And I think, like you, the universe presents us with what we need when we need it. So I find so many of those experiences of talking to people just enrich my life as well.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, I appreciate your time so much, and I'm so excited to read your books and try to grow my own garlic.
Please do. You'll have to let me know how that goes.
I will.
To give you tips. It is so easy to grow. People think it's hard, and it is not. That is one of the most easiest plants to grow.
That is, it is on my to-do. I seriously get the giant jugs of garlic, and I power eat them. So I'm like, if I can make this on my own, that'd be pretty solid. So that is for sure happening.
Yes, and it's so much better when it's yours. It just is.
Yeah, anything homegrown tastes better.
It does. There is a lot to that, but garlic in particular, it's just better. It's fresher. Fresh garlic straight out of the ground.
I've never had that before.
Crazy good. Yeah.
See, I think I'm just gonna bake that up and just squish it all into my face. That's my weekend plan.
Yeah, and you can do so many things. You can even make your own garlic powder if you use that in baking too. It's so easy. You just dehydrate your garlic and then grind it up. It's in the book.
So psyched. Well, Barb Webb, thank you so much. It was so great chatting with you.
You too. Thank you so much for having me. I'm honored, and it was great. Please do stay in touch.
Oh, definitely. You too.
AmandaValentineBites.com